Um, so as Erica said, I am Susan Renke, and of course, the screen's not moving, but I'll keep pushing the buttons and see if it does. There, yay! So I have a side gig called Global Palate Adventures, and that's what I want to talk to you about today. As Erica said, I am up in Vancouver, Washington, who no one has heard of. We are right outside Portland, just across the river. And I'm originally from the Bay Area in Northern California, and I've lived in different places in the US. And I have figured out a way to do my passion as a side business and still keep juggling my full-time job too. So I'm pretty lucky. So a little bit about me, and I won't spend a lot of time on it, but just so you know who you're hearing from. When I was a kid, I was a bit of a drama nerd and also a book lover. I don't know why that I thought it might be cool to carry around a book of War and Peace or Anna Karenina with me in seventh grade, but that is not cool. But that's the kind of kid I was. And also, like I said, in drama. And I've always loved languages. I took Spanish and French and even thought maybe I'll work at the UN one day. And that went a different direction, but I've always been a dreamer of travel. When I was young, I thought, how could you live on this planet and not want to see every single inch of it? Fast forward many years through careers and things, I haven't seen every inch of it, but now I'm trying to work on it. So down in the corner there, you'll see my very first job. This is what I looked like. I was the A&W root beer bear. I wanted to work behind the counter like my friend did, and the owner said, well, I'll give you the counter job if you'll be the bear at the weekends and parties. So there I was in Walnut Creek, California, when it was 95 degrees out wearing that outfit. So I say that's the start of my career in food service and events. So my first international trip was really inspired by one of my language teachers. I took a summer class when I was probably 14, I guess, in Mandarin Chinese. And the teacher said, I really want to take you all to Taiwan, where he had lived. And so the next summer he arranged for a trip. So at 15, I did that, and it was really life-changing. So here's what I get to do for my day job. So I work in agriculture marketing, helping ag companies promote their products to chefs. So in a nutshell, I connect farmers and chefs. And I've done that with multiple different companies as a consultant, as well as on staff, from berries to citrus. And currently, I work for the Pacific Northwest canned pears and represent the growers in Oregon and Washington. And I go to a ton of trade shows normally. That's me at the bottom at one of our trade shows. So typically when COVID isn't here, I'm on the road a couple times a month all over the US. I haven't been doing that since March, as you know, but that's okay. Other things are happening as I work on virtual tours and virtual conferences. So my side gig passion, I figured out a way to bring people together to travel, taste, and learn. And the people who go with me on my tours are started out being just people I knew from my work network. And then some of them bring their friends. On the top left, the guy on the right stirring the pot used to be the menu development chef for Applebee's. So, and some people are food PR people and some are just their friends. So it's kind of fun. So I travel with like-minded people. So what I try to do is help people learn about cuisine and culture while we support the local communities that we go to. So what I'm going to talk about today, and mostly in photos, is to show you about how we support locals and really experience their culture, how we learn the stories behind the iconic dishes, because every country has them. And even in the US, the regions that we have iconic dishes. And we'll step out. I like people to step out of their comfort zones a little bit and hopefully dispel a myth about some parts of travel. So as Anthony Bourdain, I'm sure many of us are fans, say, food may not be the answer to world peace, but it's a start. And I really believe that the more we understand about other cultures, the better. So the first thing I always do is find a local partner so that I can hire local guides, and it's different in each country. I do a ton of online research. I also talk to people that I know personally that have been to these places, and then I try to go myself for a pre-trip visit. There's only been one time I wasn't able to do that, and it still turned out great. But so we tried to really connect with the guides, talk to them, learn about their families, and then always stay in local owned hotels too, because the people that work there are super helpful. And locals know other locals, so ask a lot of questions. Down at the bottom, this is Wei from Chiang Mai, and she everybody that takes us through the markets, I try to hire people, either a guide or they're a local chef. They know the other people that work there. So this lady on the right, Cow Kai Moo Cowboy Lady, that's what she's called because Anthony Bourdain made her famous. Sorry, water. Mm, when he did one of his shows of Parts Unknown there. Now, the only thing is, I'm not 100% positive if this is actually that cowboy lady. The guide said that she was. She had the cowboy hat, but it could just be another vendor in a cowboy hat. But she was great too. She talked to us for a while. So supporting these local economies is really helpful. So it benefits us from learning from them, and then it benefits their world too. So a lot of us, we're not there right now, and a lot of them are suffering. Guides, drivers, and then of course the owner of this winery in Mount Etna in Sicily was really memorable, and he wanted to take his picture with everybody in our party. So that was pretty fun. And then one of the things I try to do on all my tours is to make sure we have an opportunity to visit homes of a local, and we can see how they live, see what their houses are like, ask questions. So the gentleman that's pouring the big jug of olive oil in the bottom photo, he is the host and owner of the home, and had us to his hilltop house and cooked some Portuguese specialties for us and got us in the kitchen to help him. And there he is at the head of the table having dinner with us. So it was a joint effort. And here we are on his patio. That's him telling more stories. And his dog joined us. That's his view from his patio. So he's just outside Lisbon. In fact, he had so much fun that unbeknownst to me, he called our driver and said, oh, don't come get them. It's only 11. I'll call you when it's time to get them. And some of our people had early flights, but we got back eventually, but it was fun. So this is Mrs. P in Chiang Mai, and she is quite the character. Her son, Ja, comes and picks you up in a van at your hotel and brings you to her home. And she's set up her home patio so that she's got all these cooking stations out there. And she's quite the character. She was telling us how she didn't like her son's girlfriend at first, but now she's gotten to like her a little bit more. And then the girlfriend was there helping us cook. It was very funny. But as you can see, we had a ton of fun with Mrs. P and learning about how she cooks. And one of the things she said was, okay, I want you to tell me your spice level 1 through 5. She said, you're American, you choose 1 or 2. And there's someone in our group that she always picks 5, and she was fine, but I stuck with number 2. Mrs. P was right. It was pretty spicy. So another thing we do on our tours is we always go see the local markets and try to connect with a local chef to take us there. So prior to cooking our lunch together, we'll go with the chef and walk around the market with them, and they'll introduce us to the vendors, talk to us about some special items. We'll pick up and actually buy things and shop and bring them back to their restaurant or their home to cook our lunch. So this is Chef Oscar from Oaxaca. on the top, and we went back to his restaurant and cooked in the kitchen there. On the bottom is Chef Antonio from Barcelona. And that was an interesting story because we were in Barcelona in 2017 when the Catalonian people were having a strike to gain their independence. So they called a strike all day on a Tuesday, a day that we had a cooking class planned. I had reservations at this really special old restaurant in Barcelona. Everything closed down. And we were able, some people stayed at the hotel and watched the marches. Some of us were able to go on walks. And I thought, where am I going to take these people for dinner? Because our hotel didn't have a restaurant. And it occurred to me, okay, what's open? Oh, hotels. So I found this really great hotel with just a few blocks away that had a amazing rooftop restaurant with little twinkly lights. And we just had the most amazing time. And I thought, well, how am I going to reschedule this cooking class? Well, we had one free day, and they connected me with this chef. And so he ended up doing our cooking class at his restaurant on our free day. So all worked well. We pivoted. And if you ever can, it's always great to go with a local who lives there. I mean, a lot of them do their daily shopping at these places. This is all Oaxaca City. And so there's bakery items, and the women are fanning the area so flies don't land on things. It was pretty hot there. Fruits and vegetables, and then women on the bottom are picking out their flowers. So I'm going to tell you more about the women in the bottom, Marisol, in a moment. So she's pretty special. So again, I just had so many. I was telling Eric, I had to cut. I have so many pictures of markets. This is Oaxaca and their moles, Oaxaca with my friend Patty in the middle with chiles, and then the Chiang Mai night market. So pretty amazing feast for your eyes as well as your stomach, that is for sure. And if anybody can guess where these shots are from, what country this food market might be, feel free to drop them in the chat. Or and if you can see, that's a lot of potatoes. So we are in Peru, which is a big country for potatoes. It's one of their staples there. So I'll tell you more about Peru in a minute. Super colorful. So the other thing we do on our tours is we always go on a couple of walking tours of different neighborhoods. So on those walking tours with a guide, we get a chance to learn about the culture, about the history, the architecture. We always taste, of course. And so we go to maybe tiny restaurants where the owner has set aside a spot for us, and he'll come out and talk about their specialties. Or we'll go to a bakery, each place you go. So I make these usually like, say, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. People have eaten, I say, eat a light breakfast, because this is going to be your lunch. You're going to stop at 5 places. And then we'll have a late dinner. So this will tide you over. One sec. Always happens when you're speaking. So the guy on the far left, it's a chef that I mentioned earlier. That's from Applebee's. So he's using a porron that is popular in Spain. They take their red wine and put it in this jug, and they do pass it around, and you pour it from the air. And so everybody practice pouring it from the air into your mouth, so the end of it never touches anyone's mouth. And we did it again at a winery. It's very traditional and popular. When I'm looking at, though, I think, well, that's just perfect for COVID times, because there's no germs sharing as we pass it along. So that was there are a lot of photos going on, as you can imagine. So these guides, because they've grown up there, they really know the history and the culture and the stories. So that's what I try to do. And most my trips are usually about a week long, only because so many of my people need to go back to work. So I would say about half the group spends a week and goes home, and then the other half travels all over, because you're already in a destination. You might as well go see other areas. So the guy on the right is from Ortigia, Sicily, and he was quite the character, but he knew our guide. So he definitely loved to pose for photos. He sang for us, told us stories. So quite entertaining. Then we also like to learn from professional chefs. So the chef on the left let us come into his kitchen in Taormina, Sicily, and we're making some pasta sauce. And then this, I had to include this photo on the bottom right when I said, let the kitchen come to you. So this is just a group dinner that we had had. Half the group had already left. I think out of this photo of 14 people, 6 of them are from our group. The others all work at the restaurant. We said we wanted to thank the chef. So we said, let's thank everybody. Just one by one, they kept coming out, more of them. The owner of the restaurant, who I still stay in touch with, that's him in the white shirt there, and his wife kneeling down in the front. But that was quite a memorable night. And that's what that's what it's all about, right? Is meeting people on these trips. So definitely we're not just demonstration cooking. We're rolling up our sleeves and learning by doing. I think you can watch as many videos as you want. And we do all love to do those that are into food. But there's nothing like learning by doing. So this couple on the right, she's a nutritionist that I knew from a friend from work. And she and her husband, she said he never cooked, and that we get that a lot. Oh, I never cook, but you get in there and have fun, and somebody's showing you how to do it, and you end up, hey, I made this. So that's pretty fun. So the other thing we like to do is make sure we're learning about the cultures that we're visiting, and we're not just insulating ourselves and going from the hotel to a restaurant. And we're, as you've heard, I try to emphasize meeting people, but sometimes you just accidentally run into great things. So the top left is in Oaxaca City. So it's a tradition there that after a wedding, the bridal party takes a walk through the streets, and there's flowers and there's music, and they stop for photos. So I just came across this wedding party, and they made some great photos. And then the bottom right, that is our group that we got to visit and talk to a monk in Chiang Mai for about 45 minutes. And he was such a character, told us all about his life and what it's like to be a monk. And he certainly wasn't what I pictured as what a monk would be. I mean, he's very tech savvy. He had strong opinions about our our politics in the US, so that was interesting. And if you notice the way that we're sitting, everyone has their feet tucked in. Of course, our shoulders are covered, as you would many places in the world where you're going somewhere sacred or religious, to be respectful. But in Thailand, it's very disrespectful to show anyone the bottom of your feet. It's just not done. So we were made sure to tuck our feet in and be respectful. So those are the things I like to give people heads up with. There's most countries have little things that we may not think of if we haven't been to that country before. So it's really important to learn about those before you go. And then I just included this because I just love the colors and in Peru. So this slide also reminds me of why I started this business. I have a dear friend named Carrie Malver who owns a business called Loom Dancer Weaving Odysseys. And she was able to blend her career in travel with her love of weaving. And she takes people around the world 7, 8 times a year, even in the US, to the Navajo Nation. But she takes them and they learn from the weavers and indigenous weavers to those countries. And I don't weave, but I would go with her on these trips. And while they were weaving, I would take cooking classes. So that's kind of what gave us the idea of, wait a minute, I could do this, combining my love of food and travel. So it was this photo reminds me of the inspiration trip that I took that led to me launching this business. So the other thing I like to do on my trips is to get out of the city and learn how the local food indigenous to that part of the world is grown. So at the top, Mrs. P is showing us her garden. And then at the bottom is the way from the Thai farm, organic farm and cooking school outside of Chiang Mai, showing us long beans, chili peppers, which we got to pick. And then on the right, that's one of the dishes that we created with the chili peppers. It's just, I do focus my tours in one city, and then we take day trips outside the city just to make it easy. Easy on me, really. So people don't have to pack and unpack every couple of days, and we take short day trips through the city. But this, around the city. So this is one of the couples at the Chiang Mai class and what they created. So Portugal and windmills. I didn't realize this was a thing, but there are quite a few working windmills in Portugal. And I heard that some of them are even B&Bs where you can stay there. But what we got to do was to go to a working windmill and learn how to make our own bread. And the family that runs this actually lives right there on the property too. So this is the bread maker and the owner showing us we're inside the windmill and showing us how everything works. We climbed up to the very top. His family's been owned this for generations. There's our loaves of bread that we made. Some people put their initials on them. And then we certainly got our hands dirty here in the dough and everybody working. And then we were able to enjoy our bread that we made, as well as a spread that the owner's family made for us. They didn't speak any English, and they came out and we all communicated as best we can, and they kept feeding us, and there was this gorgeous view. It was the highlight of our trip to Portugal for a lot of people. It was pretty special. And then I just had to show another sample of learning from the experts. One of the gentlemen on the right is a chef for his job, but his wife isn't. I'm not. My daughter's not. But we all of 10 or 12 of us that went that day we rolled the pasta in the tiny shapes, and we cooked it with the chef in his kitchen, and it was delicious. We had a great time. So this is another experience that I was able to have, again, through Loom Dancer Weaving Odysseys. I've been twice to Oaxaca, once with that group, and then I loved it so much I did a global Palate Adventures trip to Oaxaca also. So this was really special because we got to experience some of the daily life. So Marisol that I mentioned earlier, who was shopping, that's the back of her in the bottom left. The basket of corn is what they picked and grown on their property. They take the basket on a fairly regular basis into town and to a little shop, and all that's there in the shop is a grinder for the corn. There's a shop like it just next door that also does chocolate. So then we take it back, and we did the best we can, helping roll it out on this stone with the stone rolling pen, and it's called a metate. And it's hard work, but we're creating our own tortillas. So they really let me be part of the family. And it was definitely, so it's Marisol and her little daughter, the grandmother and her sister, and me kind of joining in to help make the tamales. The grandmother kept telling me in Spanish that I was putting way too much chicken in, stop. And then the little girl is showing me how it's really done. This is what they're supposed to look like. So then while the weavers were out weaving, this is my friend Matt and I and Marisol, the thing that I'm leaning over is called a comal, and you'll see them throughout Oaxaca, the side of the road, outside of restaurants, and you heat them up and they cook tortillas on them, and they're amazing. So we're doing that. And then on the right, the sisters are getting ready to boil the leaves for the tamales. But one thing I want to point out, this was an interesting story. The blue bucket in the front is what they use to wash the leaves in of the tamales, and they filled it with water from the hose. And as they're doing that, I thought, hose water, Americans, Mexico. Okay, well, I'll just wait and see. And because this is how they do it. And it was fine. It was delicious. Nobody had any ill effects, and it was great. Here we are enjoying our food that we created of the tamales and the chile rellenos. And that's Marisol, and her husband Demetrio is the weaver that the group works with to weave. And so he's the weaver, and his designs are amazing. And she's a home cook, but when I went back 4 or 5 years later, she had changed her kitchen around to make it a little bit more of a production kitchen so that she could do more teaching. But there we are, enjoying what we made. And the other thing we like to do is to make sure we learn some stories, because as I said, each place has iconic dishes, and many of you hopefully have tried arancini, which is one of my favorite things. It's balls of rice with cheese and spices and broth, and very, very good. And we all made our own and molded them into different shapes. But one of the things that's traditional is to mold arancini into the shape of Mount Etna in eastern Sicily. They're very connected to and proud of Mount Etna. So that's the arancini in the middle of our plate. Now, that is not a plate that we made. That's a restaurant that we stopped at. So that is very professional looking. And that's what they brought out before they brought lunch. So I don't know. You had to kind of be on your marathon eating game for these trips. Um, so one of my favorite places in the world is Portugal. I've been 3 times and can't wait to go back. And one of my favorite things to eat in the world is pastéis de nata. And I may be mangling that a bit, but these are creamy custard tarts. They're best warm right out of the oven. And the story behind them is that in the 16th century, monks used egg whites to starch their clothes, and they had all these leftover egg yolks. So, what are you going to do with a bunch of egg yolks? Well, they came up with a recipe for these custard tarts and started selling them out of their monastery, that's the original place where you can still go buy them today. There in Lisbon. And there's also a couple of shops in the city of Lisbon where you can have them, and they taste great also. And we were able to go in the back and see how they produce them in mass quantities throughout the day. But I was lucky enough to go to the monastery and have them, and just kind of take them warm and sit down on the bench with a cup of coffee. And oh, it's the best. I can't wait to go back and just to eat those. Yes, another thing with Portugal, as you can tell, I like Portugal, is canned fish. It's really huge. Portugal has figured out a way to preserve fish since back in the Iron Age. It was just something they did, was preserving it with salt. And then fast forward hundreds of years, they figured out to canning fish. And then there were lots of canneries all over Portugal. A lot of them shut down in the 80s and 90s, but they've started to re-emerge. And as they've re-emerged, a lot of the manufacturers have used these great art labels on them. So many stores that you go in Portugal, you can buy the tinned sardines, anchovies, tuna. And we went to one of the restaurants on our daily stop, was a whole lunch of tinned fish, and it was just amazing. It was really delicious. And another iconic dish is causa from Peru. So that's me and my friend Matt. While the weavers were out weaving, we were with Chef Pia in his restaurant called El Huacate in Peru. And causa is a traditional dish of boiled potatoes layered. So this particular photo, and actually the one we made doesn't look too bad either, is they've made it in a small mold. And it's usually layered with things like tuna, avocado, chilies. There's usually lime juice in it, but you can also have it very casually in a big long dish, like a casserole dish layered. And there's a couple stories about how causa got its name. One of one of them, people say it's a derivative of an Andean word, that cause, that means potatoes or life, and they're the same word. As I said, potatoes are so iconic and popular in Peru. And the other version is that the War of the Pacific in the 1800s, the women would pack up food for their soldiers to take off to war, and they would hand it to them and say, for the cause, causa, which is cause. And they would give them this layered potato dish. So it could be both things, could be right, but that's where they say the name causa came from. And it's every place you stop, you try it, and every chef has a slightly different version of it. So the other thing I like people to do is step out of their comfort zone and maybe eat some things that you haven't eaten before. And culture shock is a good thing. It makes you a little bit uncomfortable, but it makes you just take that other little step. And the first thing is these roasted eggs. They're actually in their shell as you see them. They stick in the shell and they heat them. You can see a little bit of flame there, so they're warm, and you take the stick, you peel the egg, and it's a little bit like a hard-boiled egg, but warm. It's actually really good. Now, chapalunes on the left are on the right are grasshoppers, and I did not eat them just out in the market in a big handful like some people do, but I did try them a couple of times. Figured I'm in Oaxaca, I better do that. I did them a little bit, maybe the wimpy way. I had them in a tortilla with cheese rolled up and tasted them. And yeah, they're crunchy, a little nutty. And the tequila I had on the side definitely helped too, the whole experience. But I haven't done crazy things like monkey brains, but grasshoppers are one of the most exotic I've gotten. But actually, insect flowers, um, flour that you might bake with, um, are really popular and growing as a way to feed the world. It's a flour with protein in it. So there's a definitely a market out there where people are producing protein bars that are made from insect flour. So it's a thing that they've known in Oaxaca for a long time, I guess. So, and then durian from Southeast Asia. I don't know if any of you experienced the smell. It is horrible. In fact, they even ban it in some countries like Singapore in certain areas so that you don't offend people. So that's Linda there saying, I'm not going to try it. But Becca, she was willing to eat anything, and she did try the durian. Most of us tried a bite of it. It actually is kind of creamy, almost sweet and savory. You get a little dill, you get a little garlic, and they even make durian ice cream that you can try at the night market in Chiang Mai. So I say give it a try. If you can get past the smell, it's worth a try. So group tours, I always like to say, okay, some group tours are huge. You're on big tour bus, you're on a big cruise, and that might be for some people. It's not my thing that I'm interested in. But how about this kind of cruise with 12 of us going to one of the islands in Thailand? I like to keep my groups that I either go on or host 10 to 14 people maximum. And it's just, you don't lose people, you're able to bond more. It's just a more manageable, fun group. You know, this group of women that I went to Chiang Mai with, this trip was not set up by me. I was a guest. It was set up by Mary from Living Big Travel here in Portland, and she's a travel agent as well as a tour designer. I'm going to be partnering with her more in the age of where we are now. I'm going to need some more advice from travel agents and to really help my guests make decisions about travel. So Mary set up this trip, and I am still in touch with all these women. In fact, just a few minutes before this call started, I got a message from one of them. She set up a Facebook group, and we live all over the country, and we'd never met before at all. although one of them lives near me in Portland, and she and I are going to go to Kenya together in November 2022. So, small groups are a good way to bond. And so the group that I did a tour to Chiang Mai that I did not go on. It was my very first one. I was very nervous, but I hired a great friend, longtime friend, Lowell, who has been to Chiang Mai many times, and he's in the hospitality and food business. And it couldn't have been in better hands. So as you can see, this group really bonded. The first day, they all went to the market and bought matching elephant pants and wore them throughout the trip. So this group had an amazing time and still stays in touch. So one of the things I want to end with is all these partners that I work with around the world or have been suffering, as you know, the last year. Many of them have figured out ways to do virtual classes. So I have other partners that I work with, but here's just a few. Taste of Lisboa, in Portugal, of course. Traveling Spoon is a great company. It was started by two women in California who, when they traveled, they'd look at homes and think, I want to go in there. I want to see how people are cooking in their homes. So they set up some online cooking classes with their hosts in different countries. And Thai Farm Cooking School has a great online class. It's like $15 and it's super fun. We made, just last week, my daughter and I joined some of the people that we've traveled with, and we made pad Thai for dinner, just cooking it together within an hour. It was so good. And Devour Tours, they have multiple cities in Europe that they work with. They're doing some online tours. So anytime you can support these groups. And another one, I don't have a specific slide for them, but the Nature Elephant Park in Chiang Mai, I think it's called Nature Park Elephant Sanctuary. They do amazing work rescuing elephants. And I'm a big believer of not supporting circus animals or animals being used for posing and photographs. And so they really, we like to go there and support them when we're in Chiang Mai. And they've, of course, been hurting without tourists, but you can donate to them too. So yeah, so that is all I had, and I really appreciate your being here. And if you'd like to receive a copy of this presentation or learn more about my tours, please sign up for my newsletter. You have to go to my website and scroll down to the bottom and put in your email address. And you can also learn about upcoming tours. I had 2 tours I was going to do this year, or in 2020, that to Barcelona and Croatia. I rescheduled them to May of this year and then realized that's not going to work. So rescheduled them again to September of 2021. We also have a trip to Chiang Mai again in January 2022. So I'd love it if anyone's interested. Please let me know, and thank you so much. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and see if there's any questions.
There are questions, Susan. Hey. What a presentation.
That was fun.
For one, I'm so glad I had 2 breakfasts before this because I would have been so hungry. Delicious food, like it just looks like such delicious food. And I just want to comment on like how sweet it is to listen to your presentation and hear you talk about each person that you're interacting with in each different location. That really brings a level of I don't know, just warmth to your presentation that I wasn't necessarily like expecting out of a food presentation. So I wanted to thank you for that. And we do have some really great questions. So first of all, Steve just asked, do you also do private tours?
Oh, I actually am thinking of adding those. I haven't, but contact me and we can talk about that, because I thought, well, if we can't travel internationally, what other things, because I have this knowledge and I have this experience, how can I help people also experience it? So I'd be happy to talk to anybody about setting up something, definitely.
Great. And then Terry was asking, how do you identify the local guides? And so I guess if if we couldn't go on one of your tours, like how would we go about finding someone that's as amazing as Mrs. P?
Yes, yes. So many hours of online research where I compare the different, so say I haven't been there before, I will Google food tours in Chiang Mai. I use different words: food tours, walking tours, culinary tours, and then you end up with a handful, 4 or 5 different companies. I do as much delving into any reviews that they've had. And then I narrow it down to a couple. Of course, I'm doing more intensive research, but I make sure and see if there's photos that they're talking to the locals, that they've had good reviews, and most of them will have the same name. Oh, I was with Wei, or I was with Jose in Oaxaca, and different reviews will mention the same guide over and over. So that's a good sign too. So that's one thing I do. And I also I ask people that have been there before, but normally, that kind of research.
That's true. Also, that just reminds you to leave your own reviews when you go to something good and use their name, because that's actually, I've never thought about like searching for a tour guide within like a bigger tour company, but
Mhm.
that's really smart.
And most of the tour companies really aren't that big. They may have 4 or 5 guides that they use. The one, Taste of Lisboa, the owner runs some of the tours, and she has maybe 4 or 5 people that work for her. So most of them are fairly small.
Right?
Yeah.
Great. And then she's also asking, how much on the ground research do you do and how far in advance do you do it for your tours?
I try to start my overall research at least a year in advance. This is all ideal, of course. And then if I can visit a year in advance, great. But when I did the Barcelona tour, I wasn't able to go visit. I had a couple of chef friends who had been there and really quizzed them. Um, and actually same with Sicily the first time I went there. But I have a friend, I worked at the Culinary Institute of America, and my friend still works there, and she is crazy for Sicily, and she'd been there 3 times. So if I can find someone that's been there and I haven't been there, that really helps. But so ideally I will go visit at a year in advance, which I did with Croatia. And meet the guides, go on the tours myself, and do hotel inspections. That's how I decide what hotel that we're going to be in. I go meet the hotels, look at the rooms. It's a official site inspection. Eat at some of the restaurants. There's been a couple of times, as I said, I couldn't do that. And so when I can't, well, even when I can do it, I always arrive about 3 to 4 days early before my group, and just walk it again, meet everybody again, make sure you have all the cell phone numbers, and double, triple check everything.
That's amazing. Oh, such care.
Mm.
Such care. And then Susan's asking, how do you work around people with food allergies on a tour?
So we always do ask that when they sign up: do you have any food allergies? And I have not found any group guides or tours that we've gone on where they haven't been able to watch out for us. I have a woman that's traveled with me 3 or 4 times who has celiac. So I have people who have been allergic to melon or tomatoes or things like that. So we've been able to work really closely with the guide. And I also ask at every stop. So say we're on a 5-stop tour, and I just make sure when we get there, this person's allergic to such and such. And then I also do, though, the person who has the allergy, the final responsibility also needs to be with them. They are, it's their life and their diet and their way of eating. So they do take responsibility also for checking. But I double triple check that kind of thing on the tours. The woman who has celiac, people, was it Lisbon? I forget where we were, that maybe a couple of places, they come out with the most amazing thing for here. Oh, here we baked this special for you, or here's a special plate just for you. So so far so good, that we haven't had any problems with it.
Thank goodness. That makes sense. And I feel like, you know, people have food allergies in other countries too. So
Yes, yes. They're all familiar with it. Yeah, nobody has said, "Oh, that's strange. We can't handle it." The restaurants have been great. Everybody has been good.
right. And then Erica Fox is Erica, great name. Erica Fox is asking, do you work with travel agencies that handle all the transportation details and all that sort of stuff?
So I just am starting to work with a travel agency or an agent, my friend Mary from Living Big Travel. But in the past, no, I handle everything except the airfare. So I do the hotels, the transportation while they're there. While they're with me, they don't have to think about anything. So I've done if we have a shuttle bus, that the tour company helps me with that. And I've just done that on my own, because I think I mentioned my day job, my career. I've done many tours for throughout my career, so I kind of knew what boxes to check. But now and many of my travelers have traveled before, so maybe are using their miles. They might ask me some advice or questions, but I am going to start working with a travel agent more to give people help with their airfare and their airline decisions. If things have to be canceled or moved, they might want more professional help than I can give them. So, but everything else I've done myself.
That's amazing. And also such hard work. I used to help Matt run his tours years ago.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I have a full-time job. This is what I do for fun. Nutty, but
And then we have just two more questions. One is, what's the most memorable market you've been to in the world?
most memorable market. I would have to say the Chiang Mai night markets. They're just there's the sights and the sounds and the smells. And I think when you go to Asia versus Europe, you get more of that culture shock, that experience, that it's different from how I grew up in California. Whereas Europe, it just feels a little more comfortable. So I would say the most memorable would be Chiang Mai. Yeah,
It's pretty incredible.
so incredible.
So I used to live in Thailand with a host family, and my host mom took me every single day to a market, and we picked out different food every single day for dinner. And I thought that was so unique because in my life, we ate like one of 20 meals for any given night. And we
Yeah,
were
and
eating
shop
so
once.
many different
Yeah,
things. Yeah.
shop once a week. Oh, someone said Hong Kong. Oh my gosh, I loved Hong Kong. I went there by myself after my first Chiang Mai trip, and I just fell in love with Hong Kong. And I only stayed 3 days. I can't wait to go back. It's just not what I mean. Yeah, you've got the crazy city, but which is also cool in the wet market. But just a few minutes out of town, you're just this lush green island. Oh yeah.
Oh, amazing.
The ferry. Oh yeah, I love Hong Kong.
Oh, Star Fairy. Such a
Yeah,
great
the Star Ferry. Yes.
And then Laura is asking, what's the difficult or most memorable meal you've ever cooked abroad?
Oh, let's see. Most difficult. Most
Or
memorable.
most memorable?
Yeah, yeah. I'm just trying to think. Pick one. I would say the most memorable was the one in Barcelona that we had to move. We had to move, and I met this new chef. I had not worked with him before, and it was memorable because he went over and above. I mean, we were exhausted. We had to cancel dinner that night. The cooking class went for like 4 hours, but we went to the market and picked out a whole fish and with the head. And then he showed us how to take the head off and put it in the pot. I mean, he didn't realize, oh, we were just thinking it'd be 2 hours and it would be easy. And we were just like, oh, but just so proud of ourselves that of what we created, like 5 amazing dishes plus desserts. And like I said, 4 or 5 hours later. So that I would say the one in Barcelona. Yeah.
That sounds amazing. Well, Susan, we just want to say thank you for coming on and sharing with us. I do have a few announcements, but I wanted to, just say thank you because this has been an incredible presentation and I just love watching people like you come and just share your passion with us because it really is just radiating from you and it's making me so want to do a food tour even though I've never even thought about it before today.
I do local ones. They have them, they have them here in the US. I do those too.
So true. So
Yeah.
true. All right, let me just share my screen one more time and explain to anyone who is a new person where you can find more of our events. So at the nomadicnetwork.com/events is where we list all of our events. Currently, we're offering 3 different kinds of events. Events like this, where a presentation happens by a person that has a lot of experience on a certain topic. And for that, we have one coming up next Tuesday night, which is exploring national parks from coast to coast in the US. She's been to almost all the national parks, Krista, and so we're very excited about that. And then Wednesday afternoon, we have Natanya, who is going to talk to bloggers and anyone in that sphere about working with brands and working with them well. She's represented brands in the travel sphere. And then on Thursday night, we actually have Emma and Maria Elena who are going to talk to us about planning a trip to Namibia. And then next Tuesday, we actually have Katie on, who is a longtime travel blogger, and she is going to teach us about how she runs around the world and how you can combine your passion, your hobby or something you're passionate about with traveling and really enhance your experience. So whether or not you like to run, I highly suggest coming to this because it's not necessarily about running. But then we also have happy hours. So we have a happy hour tonight for the southeast of the US, so anywhere in the southeast. And these are where you get to unmute yourself and you can talk to each other and share your travel stories. And they're just a guided travel discussion, almost as if you're at a happy hour. And then we also have these amazing book clubs. We just started them. This will be our 3rd one. But what's very different about our book clubs, rather than the one that you might go to at your local library when there's no coronavirus, is that we actually invite the author to come speak with us. So Don George of The Way of Wanderlust is actually going to be on live with us on February 3rd at 12 p.m. And we're very excited. Don is one of the most prolific living American travel writers, and he is a breath of fresh air. And it's a really fun book to read. Even if you haven't picked it up yet, you could pretty much breeze through it. So I highly recommend coming to this. And I also wanted to remind you that you are invited to become a Patreon member. Again, you can find out more about that at patreon.com/nomadicmat. As you can see, our entry level is just $5 a month, and that will get you access to all of the TNN replays. So if you just joined our community and you had fun watching Susan, there's been amazing presentations. We've done over 100 so far. So they're all on TNN, and we invite you to be a part of that. And then thank you so much for being a part of our travel community. I forgot to add this while Susan was talking, but this network is really for you to get to know people so that you can travel cheaper, better, longer, and more. So if you want to go to Italy, we've had an Italian travel expert on. Her name is Cassandra from Travel Italian Style. Or if you want to go to Portugal, we have Chantel. We have all these incredible presenters, and the network aspect is that we bring them to you so that you guys can then connect with them and ask them questions, just like Susan. Like if you have any questions about future food tours or anything about food, I'm sure Susan would be happy to answer your questions.
I would.
So I love that you guys are here, and please, I encourage you to use the networking aspect of this to enhance your travels, I guess, in the future, and travel planning now. And so I wanted to say thank you, and also thank you so much, Susan, again for being here, and thank you for putting together such an awesome presentation.
Thank you. It was super fun.
Yeah, wonderful. And I hope everybody has like some amazing food just now, because I'm sure everyone's hungry. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye.